What if a simple DNA test shattered everything you thought you knew about your family? When one sibling's results reveal a connection to the family's oldest enemy, the past comes roaring back, with a plan for revenge. It started as a joke. The Harrisons were a big, boisterous family, always up for a new trend. When cousin Molly bought everyone DNA kits for Christmas, the siblings laughed and rolled their eyes, but soon the living room was filled with the sound of swabs snapping and vials being sealed. "Let's see who's got the weirdest ancestry," joked Ben, the oldest, as he dropped his kit in the mail. Weeks later, the results arrived. The family group chat exploded with screenshots and memes. "I'm 2% Viking. Who knew we had Irish roots?" But then, a message from Sarah, the middle child, changed the tone. "Guys, my results don't match any of you. Not even Mom or Dad." At first, everyone assumed it was a glitch. But as they compared the data, the truth became impossible to ignore. Sarah's DNA didn't match her siblings, or her parents. The family's laughter faded, replaced by confusion and fear. Their mother, Linda, went pale. Their father, Tom, grew silent. The siblings gathered in the kitchen, the DNA reports spread out on the table like evidence at a crime scene. Sarah's hands shook as she stared at the screen. "If I'm not to Harrison, who am I?" No one had an answer. But the real shock was still to come. The Harrisons had one rule: never talk about the McKays. Decades ago, a bitter feud had split the two families. Land disputes, lawsuits, and a fist fight at a wedding had left scars that never healed. The McKays moved away, and the Harrisons never spoke their name again. But when Sarah dug deeper into her DNA results, a new match appeared: parent-child relationship, John Mackay. The name sent a chill through the family. John Mackay, the man who'd once tried to ruin Tom's business, the neighbor who'd sworn revenge after losing the farm next door. Sarah's world spun. "This can't be right," she whispered. But the evidence was irrefutable. Linda broke down, confessing to a brief affair with John Mackay during a rough patch in her marriage. "I thought it was over," she sobbed. "I never thought it would come back." The siblings reeled. Ben was furious, accusing Linda of betrayal. The youngest, Emma, cried, clinging to Sarah. Tom left the room, his face a mask of pain. Sarah felt like a stranger in her own home. But the worst was yet to come. That night, a letter arrived in the mailbox. It was from John Mackay. "I know the truth," it read. "And I'm coming home." The next day, John Mackay appeared at the edge of the Harrison property. He was older, but his presence was as commanding as ever. He walked up the driveway, a sly smile on his lips. "Hello, family," he said, his eyes fixed on Sarah. Tom confronted him, fists clenched. "You're not welcome here." But John only laughed. "I'm not here for you, Tom. I'm here for my daughter." Sarah's heart pounded. She felt torn between the family that raised her and the man whose blood ran in her veins. John handed her a folder, photos, letters, and a birth certificate with his name. "You deserve to know where you come from," he said. The Harrisons were in turmoil. Linda begged John to leave, but he refused. "Sarah has a right to know her real family," he insisted. He offered her a place in his home, a share of the Mackay inheritance, and a chance to start over. Sarah was overwhelmed. She didn't know who to trust, or what she wanted. But John made one thing clear: he wasn't leaving until he got what he came for. The revelation tore the Harrisons apart. Ben refused to speak to Sarah, blaming her for the family's pain. Emma tried to comfort her, but struggled with her own feelings of betrayal. Tom and Linda fought constantly, their marriage hanging by a thread. Sarah felt isolated, caught between two worlds. She met with John in secret, trying to learn more about her past. He told her stories of the Mackay family, of lost fortunes, old grudges, and the feud that had defined their lives. He painted himself as a victim, wronged by the Harrisons and denied his daughter for years. But Sarah sensed there was more to the story. She found inconsistencies in John's tales, and her instincts told her not to trust him completely. Still, she couldn't ignore the pull of her biological father, the chance to finally understand where she came from. Meanwhile, rumors spread through the small town. Neighbors whispered, old friends turned cold, and the Harrisons' reputation suffered. The family was divided, and Sarah was at the center of the storm. John Mackay wasn't just back for Sarah, he had a plan. He began pressuring her to claim her share of the Harrison estate, arguing that as Tom's legal daughter, she was entitled to a portion of the land and assets. He threatened legal action, hiring a lawyer and sending letters to the family's attorney. Sarah was torn. She didn't want to hurt the people who raised her, but she also wanted answers. John promised her a new life, free from the Harrisons' judgment. He offered her a job in his company, a place in his home, and a future she'd never imagined. But as John's demands grew, Sarah began to see his true colors. He was manipulative, controlling, and obsessed with revenge. He used her as a pawn in his feud with Tom, pushing her to choose sides. The Harrisons rallied around Tom, preparing for a legal battle. Ben and Emma tried to reach out to Sarah, but she felt trapped. She realized that no matter what she chose, someone would get hurt. Desperate for clarity, Sarah dug deeper into her past. She requested her full birth records, interviewed old neighbors, and pieced together the timeline of her mother's affair. She discovered that John had lied about key details. He'd exaggerated his role in her life, and omitted the fact that he'd left town before she was born. Sarah confronted John, demanding the truth. He admitted he'd used her DNA results as leverage to get back at the Harrisons. "You're my daughter, but you're also my weapon," he said coldly. "With you, I can finally win." Sarah was devastated. She realized John didn't care about her, only about settling old scores. She returned to the Harrisons, apologizing for the pain she'd caused. Tom forgave her, embracing her as his own. Linda wept, grateful to have her daughter back. The family began to heal, but the scars remained. Sarah knew she would always be caught between two worlds, but she was determined to choose her own path. John refused to give up. He filed a lawsuit, demanding a share of the Harrison estate on Sarah's behalf. The case went to court, drawing media attention and dividing the town. Sarah was called to testify, forced to choose between her biological father and the family that raised her. On the stand, Sarah told the truth. She acknowledged her biological connection to John, but made it clear that the Harrisons were her real family. She rejected John's attempts to use her as a weapon, and asked the court to dismiss his claims. The judge ruled in favor of the Harrisons, denying John's request. The courtroom erupted in relief and tears. John left town in disgrace, his plan for revenge foiled. Sarah felt a weight lift from her shoulders. She had finally taken control of her own story. With the lawsuit behind them, the Harrisons focused on healing. Ben and Emma apologized to Sarah for their anger, and the siblings began to rebuild their bond. Tom and Lynn renewed their vows, determined to move forward together. Sarah started therapy, working through her feelings of betrayal and confusion. She reached out to other families affected by DNA surprises, finding comfort in their stories. She spoke at support groups, encouraging others to embrace the truth and choose forgiveness. The family's reputation slowly recovered, and neighbors began to accept them again. The Harrisons learned to laugh together, finding joy in small moments. Years passed, and the Harrisons grew closer than ever. Sarah graduated from college, started a career, and built a life she was proud of. She stayed in touch with John, but on her own terms, setting boundaries and refusing to let him control her. The family celebrated holidays, birthdays, and milestones together. They honored their past, but refused to let it define them. Sarah became an advocate for DNA transparency, helping others navigate the complexities of family secrets. The Harrisons' story became a symbol of resilience and forgiveness, a reminder that family is more than blood. Family gathered for dinner. Sarah raised a glass, toasting to the truth. "DNA doesn't lie," she said. But it doesn't tell the whole story, either. Family is what we choose. The siblings laughed, the tension of the past finally gone. Tom and Linda smiled, proud of the family they'd built. Cyrus felt at peace, knowing she had faced the truth and come out stronger. As the sun set, the Harrisons sat together, grateful for the second chance they'd been given. The legacy of truth was theirs to carry forward. If you believe in the power of truth and forgiveness, share this story with someone who needs hope. What would you do if a DNA test revealed your family's darkest secret? Let us know in the comments below.